It's going to be challenging, but it's going to be very worth it if you are able to follow through with the agenda. Um, but it's also going to be very different. If you've taken our Go Healthy class, it's going to be very different from that class, and maybe very different from anything you've done before. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. If you decide this class is not right for you, I totally get it. Um, there are many ways to approach wellness. There are many ways to lose weight. There are many ways to be healthy, and this is just one of them. It's one that I've been doing for the past 2.5 years, and I love it. We've been doing a study on intermittent fasting for the past 2.5 years with the Baptist population, those that qualify, those that have prediabetes. We have been reversing diabetes through this program. So those that follow through with the program are reversing their A1Cs. But you'll see things beyond that. You can reverse cardiovascular disease risk. You can lose weight. You can just feel better. Um, and you can just enjoy a new healthy lifestyle. So I hope you like it as much as we do. It's something that is a little hard to get into, but totally worth it once you get there. So I encourage you to make your own plan for this program. I'm going to give you lots of information to use and tools and tips to utilize along the way. But everyone's going to approach it a little differently. So just know that there's no like straight path to this program. But I'm going to give you the tools that you need. And then I'm always here outside of the class. If you have additional questions or need one-on-one help, feel free to reach out. All right. So first things first is we want to optimize your diet because we can't really do what we want to do with bad food in our system. And of course, they say there's no such thing as bad food, but there is. And we want to optimize our diet with whole foods, and we'll get more into that today. And then from there, we'll start tracking into intermittent fasting. And then beyond that, beyond what we eat and when we eat, there's also a lot of other things that can affect our health, like moving our body, our sleep, our habits, how we talk to ourselves, our stress levels, how we can increase our energy levels. So improving our overall well-being is also very important, and we'll touch on all those things. And then I want to create something that can last you a lifetime, and it's not just something that you pick up for the next 12 weeks and then put back down. I hope that you leave this course with some tools that you can use forever. Okay, a little bit about me. My name is Shannon. I've been with Best Health for 6.5 years now. And let's see, I just moved to Oxford, Mississippi. If you're down here, give me a shout. And I love it. We're a small town living. I have a 3-year-old girl and a 1-year-old girl and a 9-year-old golden doodle. And then my husband will tell you he comes last. And that might be true because I always list him last. But he's very important to us. My husband's here as well. My master's is in nutrition, so food is my lane. But I know about a little bit about everything else as well, enough to make me dangerous. But I really my focus has always been on food. Other than that, I think I told y'all I've been fasting for 2.5 years, and I had a baby in between, so I know what it's like to go off of fasting, get back on fasting, and it's okay to do that. It's a lifestyle. You can do it when you're ready. You can do it coming off the holidays. You can take a break when you need it. So it's something you can pick up, set back down, and use when you want to. But of course, the more you use it, the better results you're going to get. Why do we want to do dietary lifestyle transformation? Oh, I just realized I spelled that wrong. I need to fix that. So the benefits are promoting fat loss and reducing inflammation, also activating our body's defenses against aging and disease, and then activating autophagy, and that is maintaining healthy cell function, which is important for a variety of reasons I'll go into in just a minute. And then we want to improve our mindfulness in all aspects of life. So, not just in our eating, not just in our sleeping, not just in our movement, but really like a whole body, whole health approach. All right, so autophagy might be something you've not heard of, or you have and you're like, I don't really know what that means, which is how I started off. So I just want to give a little synopsis on autophagy. It's the process that takes our cells, um, it removes the damaged cells and it creates new healthy cells. So that's really good for a number of reasons. It's really good for our immune function, for infections in our body, pathogens, viruses, bacteria, toxic proteins in our cells. It can improve our brain function. It can increase our energy and our metabolism. It can protect our nervous system. It can also give us really pretty healthy skin. So, fasting is one of the best ways to stimulate the process of autophagy. And I like to bring up autophagy because fasting is not just for weight loss. It's for a whole host of benefits beyond weight loss. So that might be something that you're looking for. I want to lose weight, or I want to lower my glucose, or I want to lower my cholesterol numbers. All those things may very well happen, but there are a lot of other things that are going to benefit in the process of fasting. And autophagy is that process that really cleans our system out and makes things new. All right. When we eat, this is what it looks like when we eat. Our insulin goes up when we eat. That's red. And when our insulin goes up, our fat storage turns on. So this is an example of what a 12-hour eating window might look like. So you have breakfast, your insulin goes up. Your fat storage turns on. You're in between breakfast and lunch. Your insulin starts to go back down. Your fat burning turns on. That's the green. That's what we want. We want that fat burning turning on. And we want to turn it on for longer periods of time. That's why we fast. Lunch, dinner, insulin goes up, fat storage goes up. In between, insulin comes back down, fat burning comes down. So when we're eating, our body is using food for energy. When we're not eating, our body is using its own fat storage for energy. Now, we really want our body to start using up that fat storage for energy and more. We want it to use it more often, right? So, this is what it looks like when we're eating all day long, when we're eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 3 snacks a day, which is an approach I know has been taught and is another way to lose weight, but it's not a way to decrease our A1C, decrease our insulin, and find all these other benefits that you can get through fasting and autophagy. All right. So as you can see, breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, a little lull, and then you're gonna have a snack before dinner. Your insulin, your fat storage is up all day long. So that's just an example of what it looks like when we eat and why we want to eat less often. And I'm not saying that I want you to eat less food. I'm saying I want you to eat less frequently so that when we do eat, we're just getting like 1 or 2 bumps throughout the day instead of these like 5 or 6 bumps where our insulin is staying up and our fat storage is staying up and on all day long. Another important aspect is what we're eating, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. But what we eat is also very important, as we probably all know. But this is what it looks like, the effects of nutrients on blood glucose or blood sugar over time. All right, we have carbs. That's our dark blue one. As you can see, carbs are the ones that are going to spike the most. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but carbs spike our glucose the most. Protein spikes our glucose moderately, and then our fat spikes glucose the least. So you've ever taken our Go Healthy class, I'm going to be teaching basically the opposite of Go Healthy. I'm going to encourage you to include more fat in your diet, a moderate amount of protein, and a small amount of carbohydrates. Because we want to get to a point where we are satisfied when we do eat, and we're satisfied for longer so that we don't need snacks between our meals. We just eat at mealtime, no snacks. And carbohydrates make us want more food more often because, as you can see, it's not keeping us satisfied for very long compared to protein or fat that can keep us satiated for longer. And that takes us into this whole food plate. All right, so the whole food plate is going to give us an idea of the types of foods that we can eat and the ones we want to focus on the most. So our goal this week is to start incorporating the whole food plate into our daily diet. And that should consist of protein, veggies, healthy fats for the most part. And then sparingly, we can add in full fat dairy, fruit, and starchy vegetables. Starchy vegetables are like your sweet potatoes or your regular potatoes, corn, things like that. All right. On the non-starchy vegetable list, I want you to pick out things that you like. I know that we don't like all vegetables, or most people don't like all vegetables. I want you to pick out the ones you like the most and start incorporating those into your meals. And I ABC ordered them because I'm just a little OCD. We got artichoke, asparagus, bok choy, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, celery, greens, cucumber, eggplant, green beans, leafy greens, mushrooms, okra, onions, peppers, radishes, rutabaga, snow peas, spinach, tomatoes, turnip greens, and zucchini. And there might be more, but there's a good list to get you started. Protein, we can have meat, like your red meat, your poultry with the skin on, seafood, good fatty fish. We can have eggs, we can have the yolk, we can have the egg white, we can have it all. We can have tempeh and tofu. You can have beans for protein as well. Protein, we want to eat moderately, and then as many vegetables as we can. And then we want to add in fats to every meal that we have. Fats, remember, going back to this chart, fats are what are going to keep you satiated for longer. So they're really, really important to include in your meals to stay full between meals. All right, and we want the healthy fats. We want avocado. So adding an avocado to your salad, adding an avocado to your eggs, adding oils to your salad greens, adding oils in your cooking, olives, nuts, seeds, nut butters. Someone asked me that in the last meeting. Peanut butter, for sure. Almond butter, seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, adding these things in as well. Sparingly, we want full fat dairy. So that could be full fat yogurt. That could be full fat milk, full fat sour cream, full fat cheese. I kind of lost my track for a second. Full fat dairy is going to have, again, the fat that's going to keep you satiated for longer, but also it's going to have less sugar, which is really important. That's another thing we're going to start working our way out as we start working these whole foods in. Fruit we can have sparingly, and by sparingly, I mean like a handful of fruit, maybe a handful of berries with eggs and avocado for breakfast, maybe some sliced strawberries on top of your salad, maybe half a banana over or with some peanut butter. So not overdoing fruit. I will never tell you not to eat fruit, but we do want it in smaller amounts And if you're going to eat fruit, I would love for you to pair it with a fat. So, like berries and full fat yogurt or banana and peanut butter. That fat is going to slow down the insulin response of the natural sugars from fruit. And then starchy vegetables are the same way. You could do roasted potatoes, you can do a baked potato, you could do a sweet potato, do a small one, maybe do a half of one, add in some butter, add in sour cream. Fats will help slow down the insulin response of starchy vegetables like that. All right. Let me know any questions. I know y'all are gonna have questions about this, about the foods. So let me know in the chat box. Rarely, and by rarely I don't mean every day. I mean like on your birthday, on Valentine's Day. I was like, what's our next holiday? On your husband's birthday, on your kid's birthday, on Christmas. Let's try to get sugars, sweeteners, processed meats, and refined grains into a rarely time that we're eating them. Maybe you start off with once a day. Maybe you start off with once a week. I want you to be honest with where you are and where you think you should start with it. My husband is one of those that like has to have 3 packets of stevia in his coffee, and he had to like wean himself down 3 to 2, 2 to 1, 1 to half of one, and then maybe none. Um, so if you have to wean yourself down that way from sugars, that's fine. If you want to go cold turkey, that's totally fine as well. Um, Processed meats would be like our hot dogs, our lunch meat, our sausages, things that are not in their natural form. As much like they've had things added to them. So if you look, it's kind of easy. If you look at the ingredient list, I say it's kind of easy. It's also complicated. If you look at the ingredient list on a hot dog package or sausage or lunch meat, you're going to see more than just like turkey. You're going to see more than just ground beef. You're going to see more than just chicken, like a rotisserie chicken. It's just chicken, unless they're adding seasonings to it. But we want to keep it simple. We want just chicken, just turkey, just beef. We want our proteins in their like original natural form, not added to. And refined grains are very similar. So you can just simply look at the ingredient list to tell if something is a processed refined grain. It's going to have an ingredient list that's a mile long. So if you look at like bread or crackers or I don't know, like a pancake mix, you're going to see the ingredient list. And you're also probably going to see ingredients that you don't recognize. And those are the types of things that we just want to start removing from our everyday diet. You can have it at Christmas. You can have it at birthdays. I'm not saying it has to be gone forever. It's just like on a day-to-day basis, let's try not to include those things and include more of our whole foods. Now, we can, thank you for the dark chocolate question, good one. We can do things that are more simple carbohydrates, and I don't mean like simple versus complex. I mean like simple ingredient carbohydrates like rice, for instance. If you look at the ingredient list on rice, it's just rice. If you look at the ingredient list on pasta, it's just wheat. So they're very simple ingredient carbohydrates. Those are going to be better for us than the highly processed ones that have all the things added to it. But again, we still rarely want to have these. We would rather focus on things, if we're going to have carbs, we want to have like potatoes, like coming from a vegetable, something coming from the earth versus something coming from the package. All right. Let me get to your questions. I'm starting to see them pop up over here. Is yellow squash considered non-starchy? I believe squash is on the starchier side, but it would still be fine to have, especially if you want to add like olive oil to it and cook it in a fat. I think that would be totally fine. Can we have any cheese or is it considered processed? Great question, because some cheese is very processed and some is not. Some are not. If you look at shredded cheese in a package, for example, it's going to have more than just cheese in there because they had to add a lot of other things to make it into that shredded cheese, right? So that's a processed cheese. Or even like Velveeta, that's like the extreme processed cheese. Or like the American cheese slices, those are very processed. But then you get to like blocks of cheese. Those are very simple ingredients. If you look at the ingredients, just like the milk fat and maybe the salt that's added into the cheese. So those are going to be a much better option for cheese. Um, can we have veggie burgers? Or are they considered processed? Veggie burgers are definitely processed because they did not come about naturally. But if you find veggie burgers that have very simple ingredients, again, the ingredients are going to be the most important thing on a package. If you recognize all the ingredients in that veggie burger and it's like it's black beans and it's sweet potatoes and it's spices, garlic, onion, and you recognize all those things, that would be fine. Dark chocolate. Yes, dark chocolate's a good one to use when you're trying, especially as you're trying to get off sweets. It's a better option. It's not something that I would recommend every day, but if you just like have to have something, dark chocolate is going to be a better option. And just like I would mention with fruit, you probably want to pair dark chocolate with a fat to slow down the insulin release. So if you want to do like, I was working with someone early last year and we came up with the idea of a little square of dark chocolate and putting a little bit of peanut butter on it. And it's like heaven when you just like have to have something. So it's an easy go-to. Yogurt with fruit is also a good one for a sweet tooth if you need something. Um, all right, refined grains. So what breads grains are okay? Again, the ingredients, the less the ingredients, the better. If you can recognize the ingredient, fantastic. Like when you look at the back of rice, like I mentioned, it's just going to say rice on it. If you look at the back of pasta, it's just going to say durum wheat on it. That's going to be much better than the processed bread package or the crackers or all of those things. But ideally, we're going to be working the grains, uh, the refined grains out as much as possible. Quinoa, farro under protein, or do we need to limit? You can do quinoa and farro. Again, they are going to give you an insulin response. So again, pairing them with protein, pairing them with fat is going to be really helpful. And also, I would do it like in the sparingly category, just like the sweet potato or the regular potato. If you're going to do something starchy like that, do it in smaller amounts. Squash, zucchini, onion, mushrooms. Yum. Keto bread is probably going to be very processed. I imagine there's going to be ingredients that we're not going to recognize on keto bread, but if you find one that has simple ingredients, send it to me and I'll look over it. What about almonds? Almonds, absolutely. Nuts are going to be like your best friend. When it comes to trying to getting off like late night snacking, like after dinner snacking or in between meal snacking, I use nuts. Like a handful of nuts can go a long way. You could do, and you can mix them up, like from pecans to almonds to whatever you like, walnuts. Uh, Definitely add in the nuts, and the salt on nuts will also help when you get to fasting because it'll help with our electrolytes as we're trying to keep things balanced. Yes, I'm working on getting the PowerPoint. I'm recording it right now and I'm working on getting it in a link so I can share it back with you all. All right. Bone broth, perfect. Love bone broth. You can definitely do broth. And we're going to get to stuff like that as we go. So I'll talk about some training wheels as we get ready to move into fasting. But this week, I really just want to focus on getting our food right and optimizing our diet before we get into the fasting But if you're ready for fasting, broth, black coffee, tea without sweetener, hot tea is great. Um, broth is great. You can use those between your meals. Cashews are okay. Yep. Cashews are, and I'll get into this as well, cashews are a little more carby than our other nuts, but they're still fun. Other things we're going to consider as we go. We're not there yet. We're just focusing on our whole foods today, but I just want to give you a little preview of what's to come. We're going to talk about movement. We're going to talk about sleep. We're going to talk about eating intentionally, being able to eat anywhere. So being able to do this in a restaurant, being able to do this out with friends, going out to eat, um, being able to do this when you're at work. And then we'll talk about managing our habits and targeting certain habits. What do we need to let go of? What do we need to add in? We'll talk about targeting our barriers, things that are holding us back. And then I ultimately want you to become your own self-coach. Yes, you have the next 12 weeks with me and other colleagues working on the same thing, but I want you to build something that works for you, and I want you to be able to self-coach yourself. I want you to be able to manage your habits and target barriers um, by the time the 12 weeks is finished. Okay. So navigating dietary lifestyle transformation. Attend the class. If you attend 10 out of 12 classes, you will receive any biometric screening incentives that you may have missed out on. That includes $100 for BMI, $50 for glucose, $50 for blood pressure. So up to $200. If you missed it during biometric screening, you can earn those by attending 10 classes. Now, I will say I'm taking attendance, and if you're calling in, I do need you to email me your phone number so that I can mark your attendance. If you're not physically on the meeting through Microsoft Teams and you simply called the number from the meeting invite, please email me your phone number so I can mark your attendance. All right, and then build your plan. Everyone's going to be a little different on how they do that. If you need one-on-one help, feel free to reach out. We're going to track progress. We're going to adjust. We're going to be flexible with ourselves. We're going to give grace. And again, let me know if you need help along the way. 42% of those who wrote down their goals were 42% more likely to achieve them. And then 72% achieved goals when they wrote them down, made a plan, and gave a friend a weekly progress report. So I'm just here to say, I'll be your friend. I'll take your weekly tracker. If you want to submit it, you will see better results than most other people if you will commit to a weekly tracker, making a plan, writing down your goals. Your next steps are to determine if this is right for you. Again, as a Baptist team member, you have access to our other courses. We have Go Healthy, which is a class we've had for a long time, and it works really well for folks. So if you feel like this one isn't right for you, Go Healthy just started this week, and you're welcome to jump in there. I will not be offended. Again, there's a number of ways you can approach healthy living, and this is just one of them. If this is right for you, our goal this week is to transition to whole foods, and then I want you to submit your weekly tracker before our next class. And then my last thing to give you is the Diet Doctor. This is where you can find loads of recipes and meal ideas. So I'm going to just put this in the chat box for y'all, and you can take it with you. This is a 14-day higher satiety meal plan, which is great. And I mean, you don't have to make these to a T. You could just get ideas of what am I going to eat for the next 12 weeks. But I love this. This gives you really simple recipes, really yummy recipes. And then we also just hired a registered dietitian through Best Health who's going to be putting some really simple meal plan ideas together for y'all for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So she just started on Monday. So we're going to give her just a minute. But she has it She has it on her list to do, and I'm going to get it to y'all as soon as it's finished. All right. Send me the weekly tracker before our next class. So I want you to get like a full weekend, and then I want to know how it's going. Any questions before we close out? All right. I hope you'll have an awesome week. Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to work with you. Happy New Year, and let's get going. Reach out if you need anything. Bye, everyone.